Is it worth learning Vietnamese in Vietnam? So today I want to sit down with you guys at this very quiet coffee shop, and I want to talk about something that comes up a lot with people that I talk to, and we even talked about it on this podcast that I just did out in Saigon, and that is, do you really need to speak Vietnamese when you come to Vietnam? Now, me personally, I do speak a dialect of South Vietnamese that's more American-based. I guess you call it like English almost, where there's a lot of slang involved with it, and the sounds are a little different to where Southern people understand it quite well. But when you get to like Central and North Vietnam, they look at you crazy, like, where are you from, bro? But once you learn the basics, you have enough to survive where you don't have to worry about, like, keep updating yourself. You know, like, if you're learning, I don't know, Thai, if you're learning Japanese, if you're learning Spanish, definitely, you have to constantly update yourself with new lingo and stuff like that. This isn't a thing in Vietnam, which is really nice. And the biggest advantage that I see learning the language while you're out in Vietnam is you get to interact with the locals at their level. And this isn't like a hierarchy thing. This is just that if you're talking to a Vietnamese in English that speaks English, they're not going to be able to express themselves the way they want to because their native language is Vietnamese itself, right? So you'll be able to have those interactions. Now, I will say a lot of people I've talked to that do speak basic Vietnamese or they've learned Vietnamese say that, you know, it can be a benefit if you're a teacher out here. Teachers that speak Vietnamese and are English teachers typically are frowned upon. They don't want you to. It's not a benefit to the school. They don't see the point that when you can explain like grammar and English in their native language, which is a massive plus. Like, you could actually teach somebody a language much faster if you speak their language already, right? Where we go in there not speaking anything they say, hypothetically, and trying to explain stuff to them, they just look at you dumbfounded. So we have to start using pictures and play games, and it still doesn't click, right? That is an advantage, but it doesn't benefit you if you're trying to get hired. So my advice is keep it to yourself. If you do speak Vietnamese, cool, but I wouldn't make it like a big hiring point, like, hey, I speak Vietnamese, these other Westerners don't. That's not going to sell you in a lot of schools. Now, when it comes to actually knowing the language, what can you expect to actually hear and listen to and talk about? And this is where my Vietnamese got killed. It was the gossip. It literally murdered the language for me. Let me explain what I mean. So when you do learn Vietnamese, you start talking to people. You get to sit down in the bars, you get to go to the coffee shops. Like, I'm at a coffee shop, I can talk to people there, right? You get to go to the schools, you talk to the TAs, you get to do business ventures, you can watch the government TV, you can do all that stuff. The problem with Vietnamese on the general casual level, kind of like if you're in America, you're going to a restaurant or you're talking to family and stuff like that, is you're going to deal with pretty much gossiping, a lot of shit talking, and a lot of random debates on like just nonsense. Like, it's not governmental level debates typically. Like, most Vietnamese avoid the conversation politics. The debates are typically, what's a better color, red or blue? It's somehow turned into a 6-hour fight. The next big one, I think is one of the biggest things about when you learn Vietnamese, what you start interacting with, is bragging. Vietnamese love to brag about what they have, what they got. This is a big reason why English centers, like the bigger English centers, are so big and they keep growing, is because it's a status symbol. So you're going to deal with a lot of that bragging. And at the end of it all, it's just rinse and repeat. You're going to hear the gossip, shit talking, random debates of nonsense, and then it goes back to bragging, and then it's just rinse and repeat again. And for you guys that are teachers, I got a test. Go into your classroom, tell all your students to move to the right one seat. And if they're already to the far right, then they go up to the far left, right? And they just kind of scoot up. Do this exercise, and it will take the class like 20-30 minutes, and they will sit there and fight, debate, go select team leaders. Like, they'll do a bunch of chaotic stuff that makes zero sense. And this is really what you deal with when you learn Vietnamese. This is most of the talk. And I know a lot of you guys would be like, well, in English we talk shit, we talk politics, we talk sports, it's the same thing. This is much more childish. Now, the big question is, do you really need to speak the language to live here? In general, no. You really don't need to understand anything. Even the basics, you don't need to understand them to be able to travel around the country or just live in the major cities. And that's because most people understand the basics. They understand the body language, what you're trying to say. If you're riding your motorbike, you get stuck in a random town and you need your bike fixed, they're going to understand. We also have the advantage of Google Translate, where we can translate. Remember, I said Vietnamese is a broken language. There's more to it than just you can't finish a word or make up a new word. There's also grammatical issues where You can speak in broken grammar in Vietnamese and it will still be understood, to where like in English you say, I store goats, you would be confused. In Vietnamese, you can get away with that. It might change the meaning a little, as in like cho toi or to choi, where it's like give me or give you, but it doesn't really destroy a sentence, if that makes sense. When you are out and about, you get away with broken Vietnamese if you need help, if you're talking in a market. And another advantage, this is something you can experience in Japan as well, is you can point at everything. Everything in Vietnam has a picture. It could be on the wall somewhere. It could be on the menu itself. You can definitely point at a lot of the food that you want and the stuff you want. Now, this does restrict you to, like, if you're a vegan, if you're on keto, if you're on a carnivore diet, and you have like these particular food habits or diets rather, it is a little trickier. You might want to get Google Translate, but I will warn you, if you tell them, hey, I'm Jewish, I can't eat pork, it's a religious reason, please don't do it, they're not going to care to an extent. Like, they might tell the cook, hey, they don't want pork, and then they walk away, because it's a restaurant, they're busy. They're not going to take that extra mile. And if they do screw up, who cares, right? It'll be like they'll just replace it. They won't totally get it. But in general, though, your finger is your best translator. Number two is just having your phone and just using Google Translate. Now, if you do want to learn a language, great. There are some basic things that you can learn that will get you by. And my advice for you is just learn the basics about buying. Learn the basics about like how much. Pretty much learn what you would need to go to a market, because this vocabulary will get you through a taxi. This will get you through hotels. This will get you through tour sites. This will get you through agents if you're trying to book a tour. This will get you through the markets themselves. And you can use this stuff interchangeably. So I would suggest learning like those like 50 to 70 words, and you would be perfectly fine out here. You don't really need to know a lot of Vietnamese. And again, I said this earlier, the grammar is broken. The language is somewhat incomplete. So you get away with a lot of that. Now, when it comes to like the reading and writing and all that stuff, you don't need to. A lot of Vietnamese are illiterate. They don't know how to read their own language correctly. And there's a lot of confusion when it comes to writing. You see this a lot in farm towns where people will actually write Vietnamese on boards and it'll be completely incorrect, and only some people catch it, right? The point of actually reading, though, there is no point at all. Like, I had to read the law book of Vietnam Communist Party, right? And I was able to get it in English, and it was translated accordingly per my lawyer. So everything was perfectly fine. I didn't even have to learn to read for that. So there's no reason for that. So with that being said, I would strongly suggest just learning how to speak and how to listen. That's all you need to know. And again, master it in like the top 50 to 70 words relative to actually going to a market. Focus your topic subject on markets, and that will cover 90% of what you deal with in Vietnam. Out of 10, 11 years I've been here, that's all I've really needed. Now, the best way to learn the language, people like to say Vietnamese is a hard language. It's not hard. If anyone has a hard time learning a language, it's Vietnamese learning English, because they have to get rid of the tones. And that's actually harder than actually adding the tones. It's an interesting thing. When Western people learn Vietnamese, we get the accent down pretty well. When Vietnamese learn English, they still sound Vietnamese. You said, man. And it's mostly because of that tone. You'll hear people say, how are you doing? My name is Win. I like hair. And they put periods after every word, because that's how the language works. But as us learning their language, it's easy to adapt to that, to where them to unadapt to a life of that language is not as easy. So you do have that benefit. So interacting with people is the best way to do it, and really just listening to stuff. Like, I would suggest Pimsleur is a good way to go. I think it's like $10 a month, and they focus on South Vietnamese dialect, which is fine. But it's like 30 lessons. If you get through those first 30 lessons, you'll have everything you need to survive in all of South Vietnam and most of the North. Definitely check that out. You can get it on your iPhone, you can get it on your Android. But that's the way to go. Now, I need to give you a warning if you're going to learn Vietnamese. In Vietnam, most people learn the bad words first, right? They think it's fun. And the amount of people that have told me to F off, or I've like asked for the bill, and they just let me say, what the fuck? In the native speaking world, if I did that, any of the stuff that I see like people, kids, adults do here, it would lead to gunfights. It would lead to straight up fights. It would just lead to very bad situations. Out here, it's kind of looked at funny. Why that is, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I understand the culture so well, but I don't understand why telling somebody to fuck off is funny. So with that being said, in Vietnamese, don't learn the bad words and start saying them to people. It will get you in seriously bad situations. This is kind of a culture thing about people here, is it's okay for us as the Vietnamese, to act how we do towards you and anybody else, but if you act a way towards us, it leads to consequences, right? And it's the same idea. Like if you, as a Western person, are throwing trash on the ground everywhere, Vietnamese will actually stop you and be like, hey, bro, can you pick, this is our country, can you pick that up, right? Meanwhile, they're throwing their garbage on the ground as they're telling you to pick up yours, right? This stuff happens all the time. So when it comes to language, don't learn the bad words and like play with them in situations. Don't go to your mother-in-law and tell her to fuck off. Don't tell the kids what the hell. Like that stuff leads to very, very bad situational things. If you are going to learn the bad words and you are going to say them, make sure you know the people you're saying them to, and make sure there's a mutual respect that when you do say these things, you guys all understand what it is, right? Because if you are saying these things randomly and you are not a local person, they're going to take it offensive. I've seen many problems spew from people just saying, oh, the Vietnamese are like, why are you saying that to me? Why are you so rude to me? And it's like, bro, you just said fuck off. Whatever the case is, man, focus on the language. I think Pimsleur is probably your best bet to learn the language. Learn and study a bunch of the market stuff. You'll be good to go. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching. What the fuck, man? Eat my butt, bro. I'm out. Why are you watching these videos so late? If you were part of the members group, you would have got these videos weeks ago. Plus, you get early time to go through our Q&As that are only for members, and you can ask questions directly to me and other members that have went through what you're trying to figure out, be it for school, fitness, traveling, retirement, nothing but benefits, and at the cost of just half a beer. And if you're out here in Southeast Asia, the cost of just one beer itself. So join now, stop missing out. And if I haven't answered your question, if it's not in the Q&A in the member section, ask. I will personally answer your question through video or comment and replies to you directly. So you get the answers you need. So click that join button, start learning about travel hacks, how to work abroad, how to retire abroad, immigration questions, all of that stuff without having to filter through countless YouTube videos that you don't even know if are up to date anymore. So let's go. Click, click, click. I'll see you inside.